Welcome to yet another awaited session of the weekly Sunday Satsang organized by North America Institute of Vihangam Yoga. My name is Neetu and I have joined this Satsang from Edison, New Jersey. In the current times, our day-to-day life gets consumed in fulfilling our physical and mental requirements and social responsibilities. In this fast-paced routine, the requirements of the soul are often forgotten. So, I congratulate each one of you for taking some time from your busy schedule to join this session to fulfill the requirements of the soul. Today's satsang session is a continuation of the recently introduced section called Swarved Wisdom, where we attempt to understand the meaning of Swarved Dohas that our speaker has selected for today. This will be an interactive session, so please ask questions and share your thoughts and understanding once the speaker has explained the Doha and its meaning. Our speaker for today is Amit Talekarji, who is a sincere disciple of Sadhguru and very knowledgeable. I would request Amit Talekarji to enlighten us. Over to you, Amitji.
Jai Sadhgurudev. And thank you, Neetuji and Nevi, for giving me this opportunity. So, Swarved Wisdom is a session that Nevi started from last a few weeks. And again, the intent here is to make this more collaborative session. So again, some disclaimers here. I would request all of you to participate in this session. Initially, I will share my thoughts, but definitely looking forward for all of you to provide your input as well. Obviously, I'm still at the level of mind and intellect. So what I'm going to share is definitely my understanding of this topic and not really the experiences. So definitely looking forward for, the experienced disciples to share their thoughts as well. And any questions, feel free to unmute the line and ask towards the end. And what we expect of, doing this Swarved Wisdom is um, we should, have in the habit of reading Swarved daily, and we should do that self-study for this session. So today, the dohas that I have selected is on your screen today. So I would request anyone from the participants to read this doha and as well read the Bhashya.
Yes, Gurudev, I will read it.
Thank you.
जीवन डोरी आपसे दीजे सद्गुरु हाथ ढार वृत्ति गुरु भाव में जीवन सद्गुरु साथ। भाष्य। अपने जीवन की डोरी सद्गुरु के हाथ में देकर अपने स्वभाव को गुरु के विचार के अनुकूल कर उसकी शरण में रहना चाहिए। जय सद्गुरु।
Thank you, Shiranji. So let's try to understand this doha, and this is from the 5th mandal, 5th adhyaya of Swarved. And there are few, again, this is in Hindi, and there is a translation in English for few of the words. So before we go into the meaning of this doha, let's understand all this word means, and then at least start with some common understanding and background. So let's start with some observations that happens around us, right, in the real life today. So if you see across, if you put multiple individuals into same situation, what you would see is they react differently, and each one probably will have a different kind of response to that situation. Typical examples are, we have seen many times that twins basically born to the same parents, right? they get same kind of inputs, right? Same kind of support from the family, from the teachers and all. But when they respond in certain situations, the response is pretty different. Um, and why? I mean, we probably need to think why such things happen, right? Even when we listen to, let's say, a satsang, it quite often happens that when I discuss the same topic with me and my wife, she has some different understanding, I have some different understanding, and then we talk about it. So these are the common things that happens around us. So what that tells us is there is definitely some, even though we get the same input, there is definitely something additional that is with us that basically prompt us to take certain actions. So and that is where the understanding of the spirituality becomes very important. And why this happens is because of our internal state of our antakarana. So when we say swabhav, that's basically coming from those inner organs. So we know by reading Swarved, there are 4 different types of inner organs: mind, chitta, intellect, and ahankar. And those are the ones who basically um, guide us, right, into some actions, some decisions. And then that's how we react, even though situation may be different. And we know chitta is the camera. So everything and anything that is happening in our life, there is a camera that provided to us that captures everything that is going on around us when we pay attention to it. And that basically gets stored in the chitta. And that is those are the experiences that drive some of those decisions. And definitely the level of intellect plays a role. And as you know, as the conscious element, we have heard in the previous satsang, desire, knowledge, and efforts. These are the 3 conscious properties with us all the time. And based on the status or what maturity of knowledge that we have, that would also drive those decisions. So there is quite a lot variable things here when certain things happens, or we take certain decisions, or we interpret something, right? Why this is important in the context of what we are seeing on the screen is, this is again everyone, probably most of the people on this call understand Hindi, but again the interpretation of doha will be different for each of them. We have seen, and I think Sant Shiromani Namdev ji, when he was here, he always says, and he has always said it many times, that whenever he talks, that interpretation will be different for each disciple who is present there. And that interpretation will be based on what is your level of upliftment in the spiritual path, right? What kind of disciple you are. And in the Swamiji in the Swarved has basically given different types of disciples. And based on that state or your state of inner organs, that would decide how you perceive that knowledge, right? So let's take a couple of real life examples. So let's consider a scenario where, again, we're just talking about this life. So someone is, in this life, never been in touch with the spirituality, right? All he has seen is the materialistic world. So definitely for that person, the knowledge is limited to what he has seen, right, in this life. And definitely his goals will be more focused on what he has seen, right, and which will be more of a materialistic goals. So purpose for that person would be more of a materialistic life, right? Someone who's beginning to understand the spirituality, right, his state will be a little different, right? He probably understand there is a little bit more to more than the materialistic goals, right? And there is something more that he needs to pursue. And then there is a different types of disciple who's probably the deep practitioner of deep practitioner of spirituality. What that means is he is already at a level where he understands or having some experiences about the spirituality. He already connected with the Sadguru, and then trying to follow the path of spirituality, and that person's involvement and interpretation of what he hears will be different, right? So the whole point of telling all this is how we interpret the Doha, how we interpret at the mind and intellect level will be different from the person who is experiencing this, right? And in the context of Brahma Vidya, Swamiji always says that, Brahma Vidya has two parts. One is the external knowledge and then the experience, right? So what we are trying to do here as part of Swarved Wisdom is to understand this at the level of mind and intellect. So again, some examples, right? So when we go to the Prachar and Prasar, right? When we talk to someone new about Vyangam Yoga, that person may again, we have seen that oftentimes that the reaction from the people will be different. Some will be ready to join the satsang. Some may be, say directly on your face that they are not interested, or something like that, right? So why those things happens, right? And again, it based on the type of disciple, and Swamiji has again said that spiritual level would be different, and he has mentioned in the survey there are 5 different types of disciples, right, on the path of spirituality. And those types are Uttam, Madhyam, Kanishta, Adham, and Admadam. So those are different 5 types. And again, the behavior of the person on the spiritual path will differ based on the level of the disciple, right? How far he is on that path. And the Uttam, which is the best disciple, he is very pure from the art, and he will so whenever he sees Sadguru, he will basically surrender to him and right then and there, compared to the other disciples who are still at the level of mind and intellect, trying to make sense of everything. So point of saying this is, again, there are different aspects that play in the picture when we interpret something. So now let's, coming back to this Doha, Jivan Dori Apase, DJ Sadguru Haat, Dhar Rutti Guru Bhav Mein, Jivan Sadguru Saath. So Jivan ki Dori, let's understand this point, right? So Jivan ki Dori, so we know Jivan is a life, right? Dori is, we can call that as a leash, right? So we, in a path of spirituality, we have to give this leash of our life to someone, right? So that we get the proper direction, right? Control on our life, what we're supposed to do in the path of spirituality, whatnot, right? So if you want to understand this in the context of a materialistic example. So yesterday's satsang, and there was a good example about the owner walking a dog, right? So if you look at that scenario, so the owner is walking, right? He has a leash tied to a dog, and dog is walking alongside him. So what do you see? What's happening there is owner is basically controlling, right, which direction a dog has to go, right? How far he can go, how close he can walk with you, what direction he has to go, right? All that control is done by that leash, which is tied to the dog and controlled by the owner, right? So that's context is very important to understand. So and other important thing that we need to understand here is the purpose of life, right? And what I explained so far, purpose of life would be different based on how spiritually evolved you are, and there is nothing right, nothing wrong, right? um, and based on the state of the inner organs, that's where you choose to decide what you want to do, and that basically implies some purpose, right, based on some purpose. So here so what we have seen example here, example of dog was more of a materialistic, but when we talk here in the spirituality, we need a guiding principle, right? We need an authoritative source that to whom we can basically give this leash of spirituality, right? For me, right? And then trust that source that he will guide me through the through this process, right? So now the important thing is how do we identify what that source is, right? And who do I provide the control of my life, right? Who should I hand over the leash of my spiritual life? And that's a very important thing and very important decision in the path of spirituality, right? So first thing and pretty important is to understand the purpose of life, right? Which is tied to what kind. I mean, again, that will evolve based on the kind of knowledge that you get. And Swamiji has written in the survey that ultimate goal of human life is to uh, complete the yoga, that is union with the supreme being, right? So that purpose evolves. And then second thing important that needs to happen in the life of any disciple in the spiritual path is to identify a true holistic Sadguru, right? So there are, again, in the survey, if you read, there are quite a lot guidance that Swamiji has given that talks about who that guiding principle, right, to whom you can basically surrender, right? And that guiding principle, how to identify him, right? So Swamiji has mentioned in the survey that you ask someone that where, I mean, the guru who can explain you where is the mind, how mind functions, what mind does, and how you control mind. That is the person, and where mind resides, right? The someone who can answers, he probably is the guru, right? And Swamiji has even given in detail in the survey how you identify, right? And obviously Swamiji says here in the survey that you don't follow because I'm saying, right? But then read this and then experience this, right, in your meditation, and that's the way to realize that you are on the right path, right? So who says all this, right? This is basically a true guru, a true guru who's looking for the souls to get liberated, right? That's the one who is a true Sadguru or holistic Sadguru that one should look for, right? And that's the achievement that a spiritual seeker can have in this life, in his life. So now coming back to again this Doha, Swamiji has said here that you basically um, surrender, right? Surrender, the importance of surrender here in this Doha. So anyone who wants to walk on the path of spirituality, right? We definitely understand that Sadguru is pretty important, and to meet with the Sadguru itself is the achievement in the life time. Then definitely what we need is another two things are faith and surrender to the Sadguru, right? And in the path of spirituality, it is, we always hear, and Swami has written clearly in the survey that the only way you can move forward is by complete surrender to the Sadguru, right? And this surrender, again, as I mentioned, based on the our understanding, our spiritual level, right? What type of disciple we are, that surrender thing will differ for each one of them, right? But Swamiji has Swamiji has written one book called Atato Adhyatma Jigyasa, right? So in that book, Swamiji has explained the meaning of what does it really mean when you basically hand over, right, the leash of your spiritual life to Sadguru, and when that happens, right? What is the true surrender, right? When do you what can you call as ultimate surrender, right? So Swamiji has mentioned in that book that this happens, this is a very high level of meditation, or very high level of spiritual achievement, actually. So what happens is, right, in the conscious path, um, there is a point in the spiritual journey when a disciple basically reaches at a point where the mind and prana dissolves. So we know mind is created by Akshar Brahma, and prana is created by Mahashunya. So when your consciousness, and again, this is, if I can correlate to the levels of Yangam Yoga, this probably third or fourth level. That's where the mind, and it's probably the fourth level. That's where the mind is. So your consciousness reach at a point where you basically pass the point where the mind was created, when the prana was created, right? And then your consciousness reach at a point, a zone that is called a zone of Sadguru, Sadgurudev. And Swamiji has mentioned in that book that when your consciousness reach at that zone, uh, and he called him, or call that zone as the Sadguru Sadan, there are two things happens. So Sadguru presents himself in two forms. The true conscious form, that is Nityanadi Sadguru, that is the conscious form of Sadguru. That is what disciple experience at that time. And other experience that he has is the form of Vyakta Sadguru. That means the form which the present human form, right? So those two forms disciple sees, and at that point, the disciple basically totally surrenders to the Sadguru, and that is actually what is meant by at that level, right, of consciousness, means by true surrendering the leash of the life to Sadguru, right, and from there Sadguru basically drives everything, right. So that is the meaning that he has explained in that book. And with that, I just recall one sansmaran that someone has shared on one of the satsang. I don't exactly recall the name of the disciple, but the sansmaran is like this. So there was a, I mean, there is I mean, again, I don't know the exact time frame of this, but the disciple used to be in a higher level of meditation, and he was, he has crossed that self-realization stage, right, and pretty more of a, at a level of the true Vyangam Yoga meditation, which is level fourth and level fourth onwards. And he used to sit in the meditation, but he was in that in that conscious plane from quite a long time, and he was not progressing from that. So and he used to again come and visit Swamiji, right, sit with Swamiji, and then basically talk about a few things and then go from there. So what happens is, one fine day, one of the Swamiji's sevak notice that this person is coming so long, he's always complain about, right, he's stuck in that particular path and not moving forward. What can, and why Swamiji is not helping? So this sevak asked Swamiji, what is the, what's happening, why he's not, I mean, he's doing everything right as prescribed, but he's not moving forward. So that time Swamiji explains him that during the meditation, this disciple experiences two forms of Sadguru, and he somehow doesn't acknowledge the human form. He always goes and acknowledge the conscious form. That is not a true surrender. So when he will understand that true surrender means surrendering both the forms, that is that when he experiences in the meditation, and that's his path forward. Until that happens, he has to be in this stage. So that's the level of surrender we are talking here, right? And again, the point of sharing the sansmaran is basically to to basically say the level of right surrender Swamiji talking in this doha. So this is again very high level of again understanding needed for this doha. Real experience is needed to understand this. Now let's say let's talk about, right, to reach to this level, right, who really can experience this, right? And definitely what we know is a person definitely needs a self inspection. So everybody says that, I'm a true disciple, I surrender to Sadguru, but what that means, right? So there needs to be a self inspection, self test, right, to see where you stand. And Swamiji in the survey has given 5 different types of disciples, and really I think everyone has to evaluate that, right, where we stand in the context of that text, right? Not because I am saying I'm surrender, is that really surrender, or we really in the sense of Sadguru, have we really surrendered, right? Second thing is definitely the complete faith, right, in the teaching of Sadguru, and then following what he has prescribed. And definitely uh, the ultimate thing is, right, the blessing, right? To experience this doha, we definitely need blessing of Sadguru, which can happen by true faith in Sadguru, surrender, and basically following his teachings. So again, what we talked is very high level, but now let's come back right at the level of mind and intellect. So at the mind and intellect, right, where one person should begin, right? What that person should do to start understanding, or at least trying to basically give that leash to Sadhguru, right? What that person can do. So Swamiji has again provided us the prescription. What should be a daily routine of disciple. Definitely, there is a seva satsang sadhana that goes around it. And Swamiji has given 12 important rules that every disciple from Vihangam Yoga should follow. And those rules are documented somewhere. But very high level, what those 12 rules, I'll just have one liner for each. So Swamiji says that these 12 rules that disciple has to somehow remember, right, or try to incorporate in the daily life. First is remember the main purpose of life. We definitely need to understand what is the main purpose and keep that in the mind while basically doing our daily routine. Definitely, we should be devoted to Supreme Being. We definitely need to understand the importance of human body, each breath that you take. Be eligible for Sadhguru blessings by complete devotion and faith to Sadhguru. Sadhguru's main aim is to spread the knowledge of Brahma Vidya. So a disciple should definitely participate in that and basically do an effort to spread this knowledge. And there are 3 different books that Swamiji has recommended that he has written. One definitely is the Swarved. Then there is a Bijak Bhashya and Chaturvediya Brahma Vidya Bhashya. So those are the 3 recommended books that every disciple should read. Definitely follow the Seva Satsang Sadhana routine. More focus, right? Again, try to be more loving to others. Be thinking about welfare of society. Then everyone should, do an effort towards progress of the society, how peace can be in the society. And these guidelines that Swamiji has given, no one can change these guidelines, and this has to be followed. And the total surrender to the Sadhguru is what will make the progress in the path of spirituality. And once a disciple does a total surrender, that's when he will begin progressing in the path of spirituality. So these are the 12 high-level rules that Swamiji has given that every disciple to follow, and that will lead us to experience what is written in this Doha. So with that, I'll stop here, and I will request others to please jump in and again correct me. Again, what I've explained is in the right in the level of mind and intellect. But please join and share your thoughts, and any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Just there.
Thank you, Amitji, for beautifully explaining the Doha word by word and its meaning, and also sharing the Sansmaran with us. At this time, I would like to request if there is any question from the audience or any thoughts that you would like to share on this Doha, or if anyone has joined this satsang for the first time, you can come forward and introduce yourself.
I have a comment. Yes, Ranjan. Thank you so much, Amitji and Netuji. I think this was very beautifully described in the Doha. The example which Amitji gave about, I think that was a very, I would say, impactful example where, the level 4 disciple was unable to progress because he was attributing more devotion towards the disembodied Sadhguru versus the embodied form. On a similar note, what is your thought on, let's say, if there are 2 gurus and you are they might look very similar. In my case, it's like Jaggi Vasudev Sadguru. He's also called Sadguru, but it's a Sadguru. It's like uneducated guru. That's what it means. And then we have our guru, Sadafal Devji Maharaj. So when you are doing the bhakti, you are trying to immerse, soak yourself into their form. But both of them you are able to do pretty much in the similar kind of devotion. There's no discrimination. One is higher, you're doing because they're both Almighty, in touch with Almighty. So I would like to hear your thoughts on that perspective. Is there any conflict of interest there, or what is your thoughts?
Thank you, Niranjanji, for your question. And I would like to request Amitji to answer this question. Over to you, Amitji.
Thank you, Nituji, and again, a very beautiful, very nice, and again, a very thoughtful question here, Niranjanji, as always. So let me try, to share my thoughts, and again, I will request, additional folks to please jumping and share. But again, the context again, the important thing here is, again, I'll go back to what I've read in the survey. The important aspect is again going back, right? So everyone who is trying to get basically the disciples on the path of spirituality, I think it's a great effort. Definitely, there is no question that something good is being done there, right? Now the important thing is the purpose, right? The purpose is what drives, and that is where I think it makes a big difference, right? Similarly, and in the survey, Swamiji has mentioned 5 different types of disciples, right? So what is the purpose of, right? Everyone who are trying to achieve out of the life is again different, right? And that will be, and there will be a guidance or mentor to achieve that for sure, right? So as we, if I take an example of, our school life, right? We begin definitely when we take birth, who's our guru, right? Who's our teacher? Our parents, right? Because they teach us how to walk, right? How to eat, how to behave, right? A lot of our the sanskaras or basically guidance in the initial phase of life come from our parents, right? Or our relatives that we work or live close with. Now as you grow, right, in your lifespan, definitely there are teachers, right? Your primary teachers, your middle school, high school, college, whatnot, right? So all that, if you look at the life, right, there is always a different teacher basically comes and help you, right? And again, this is more on the materialistic side. But when you talk about the spiritual side, right? The again, the level of involvement and what is the purpose, right? So I will just talk about then if you look at the Nityanadi Sadgurudev, the conscious form of Sadgurudev, that is, if you look at what is explained in the survey, the Nityanadi Sadgurudev is the form of Almighty. Now, why he has to come here on this life, right? When he is at a plane where he can be in that constant right bliss zone. The purpose of Sadguru coming on this earth is basically or basically coming and spreading this knowledge here is to upliftment of souls, right? The souls who wants to get liberated, right? And if you're looking for that liberation, if you have intense belonging or intense longing to achieve that, that is where you need an ultimate guru, right? And that ultimate guru is the Nityanadi Sadgurudev. And that Nityananda Sadgurudev basically, again, some more thing to understand here, how he spreads his knowledge, right? He can either appear here or he can basically transfer that knowledge or that energy into a person, a soul who is capable of handling that energy and very pure, right? Jivan Mukta Yogi. So those are the, I mean, forms in which he basically appears here and then spread that knowledge, right? And that is where it is pretty important to understand, right? Which level, again, what's the purpose? What kind of guru that you want to achieve? If the goal is the materialistic one, again, there are, again, we know, right? There are quite a lot gods that we worship. They have a capability to provide that, right? Then do we really need a spirituality for that? No, right? The spirituality is more of a liberation, right? And it's tied to liberation. So that's the, if someone wants to achieve that level, you definitely need an holistic guru, not just a materialistic one, right? And then that's where a true, the Uttam Shishya, right, as Swamiji calls them, who is a pure disciple looking for liberation, basically in search of that guru, and he won't stop unless he finds that guru, right? And I'll just stop here. I know I know I did not answer your question directly, but then it's at a minor intellect level. I can only share this much, but I'll basically ask our experienced disciples to share more knowledge. And I'm not sure, Niranjan ji, I clearly answered your question, but some thoughts there.
No, that was very beautifully explained, Amit ji. Really appreciate, because you said it right. Nityanadi Sadguru functions through divine souls, and that's your answer right there. And our Guruji, Sadafal Devji Maharaj, is definitely one of that medium for the Nityanadi Sadguru, and there are others as well. And it's okay, because they, for a father, whether it's a son 1 versus son 2, they're both loving. There's no status difference there. And the purpose, like you said, your devotion, what are you devoting for, is the most important thing. Because if you're seeking the highest possibility of this human form, which is seeking liberation or meeting with the Almighty, which is in the spiritual realm, then that's the path. And any materialistic gains, it's a different approach. And the Vedas talks about that. Actually, it's a menu of buffet system, actually. And that's where the human intellect is very critical, to choose, like where they want to direct their entire mind and body system, into which side. Very much like when you get into a college, you decide, it's a prescription, like you want to go into computers or mechanical and so on. And that's the choice that a person has to make. And some people will choose for other kinds of gratifications, as opposed to, and it's just the way, that's what happens when you go into a buffet. But an intellect which is driven by the karmic soul, which is coming in with the storehouse of many lifetimes, it will have the inner calling, which will direct the intellect about the highest possibility. And those intellect will be able to actually use that knowledge and then have that desire and then take the action. So I think it's very true. And it's the analogy works even in the physical realm. And like I tell some people that, hey, if you want to become a CEO of a company, you need to have certain criteria. And once you meet that criteria, you can become the CEO. The only problem is, in the physical realm, things are limited and temporary. So maybe out of 10,000 people, one will become the CEO, because it's a very limited number of seats. And it becomes a process of elimination as opposed to inclusion. And that's the beauty of the spiritual realm, because it's about absolute inclusion. It's about, you meet the criteria and you meet the God. It's an infinite Satchidanand. And I think that's what, if that doesn't influence an intellect, that, wow, yes, you're right, that's the way to be, then they will be influenced by their karma, and maybe many lifetimes they will go through to be able to come to that kind of understanding. But that's one of the examples that I tell a lot of people, that it's very similar. The analogy, what you're living in a physical realm is no different. The only problem is very limited. And it becomes a process of elimination. Like you want to become a doctor, engineer, it's an elimination process. But this is a process of inclusion. Where do you want to be? Choose your path, actually. So yeah, so thank you, Amitji. That was beautifully explained. I'll let anybody else who may have other thoughts to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Niranjan ji, for the question, and Amit ji for explaining, providing your input, and Niranjan ji also for your thoughts on this question you raised.
Yeah, I think this is something that everyone should think, that where the priority should be, actually, because literally in the material world, we are talking about limited everything, limited resources, and it's all about entangling into that thing. But in the spiritual world, it's limitless. That's why we call it Shiva, that which is like limitless. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So just sorry, go ahead. Someone is talking, or okay?
No, please.
Yeah.
Please
So just want to add a couple of things to this discussion, right? The context of soul, right, and also the context of intellect, right? So so intellect, right? So in the physical world, or the intellect that we have, right? And again, most of the people, right, that deals with the intellect at a physical or the materialistic level, that intellect is again based on the knowledge acquired, right, by some sort of inputs, right? Either you read, you study, or someone's experiences, like that, right? Now the intellect also has different aspect, right? So as a disciple grows in a path of spirituality, there is something called as, again, I don't remember the exact term, but there is something called as pragya and rutambara. So as the disciple grows in the path of spirituality, the point comes, right, where all these physical things, right, even the antakaranas, which are part of the materialistic world, they get dissolved, right? And that is where, and after that, um, the um, the actual spiritual path begins, right? The Vyangam path begins, right? So at a level of intellect, if you, I mean, again, what we are trying to do here is now, right, be in the materialistic plane and try to think what happens, beyond the mind and intellect, right, when it dissolves. So when at the higher level, at a soul, when soul really, when you have that self realization and beyond, when you are in that conscious plane, then that's where the pragya and ratambara, right, which is then additional knowledge that soul gets at some point, right? And that knowledge is that is pretty different from what materialistic physical intellect that you have, right? And that knowledge is given by Sadguru, or it is basically fed directly to you, right? Again, I don't have any experience, but that is what is coming from Sarved. So when we experience something, or when we, so at a higher level of, right, when we talk about the soul and intellect, there is a higher, the experience that soul get that cannot be explained in the words, right, using mind and intellect. So definitely there is something, and again, uh, given that we are in the materialistic world, definitely, right, that aspect of mind and intellect will always come in the picture. But what we are truly seeking towards, right, which is liberation, if that's the goal, then it is at the soul and the experience level, and at the level of intellect, which is pragya and rutambara, right? That cannot be understood in, and you, I mean, in the context of uh, the physical intellect and the mind. So I'll just add that, right? It's all experience, and that's where, right, the Swarved or the complete guru comes in the picture, right? You need someone who can guide you, right? Who has been there, who has done this, and who can guide you on that path, right? Who can be your compass for spiritual life, right? And that's the knowledge, that is the wisdom of Swarved, right? And then that's what Swamiji says, right? First read that, understand that, right? This is, and again, understand the level of your intellect and mind, but then experience that, right? And that experience is what will basically take you beyond, right? Which you cannot really explain in the words. So I'll just pause there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amit ji. Neetu ji, do you have 2 minutes or 3 minutes?
Ji, sure, Niranjan ji.
Okay. I think this couplet, the Doha, it's a very vast meaning, right? And Swamiji has given many Doha just to justify this Doha. I remember, like Swamiji says in the Doha, आत्म समर्पण प्रभु करे, आपा आप मिटाए, एक आस भगवान की, अवर न मन कुछ आए, आप पूर्ण विश्वास है, नाम करे से होए, पर पुरुषार्थ करत है, प्रभु प्रकाश उर सोए. Well, when we say about the Jivan Dori Aapse Deji Sadguru Haat, it's all about a self-surrendering. What is self-surrendering actually? The state of self-surrender is when the soul, through its own powers and with the blessings of the Sadguru, surrender itself to the Supreme or God. Surrender cannot happen through the mind, senses, or the elements of nature. That's why Swamiji says, Atma Samarpan Prabhu Kare. Atma Samarpan. The surrender at the level of soul. The body is made up of 5 elements of nature, right? Which are inert. We all know. They are activated by the mind. And the mind draws the energy of the soul and dissipates it through the sense of organs and gets tasks done in the world. We all know and we experience, we do it. So there are a total of 10 external and 4 internal senses of the soul. What are those 4 internal senses? The sensory organs are the mind, number 1, intellect, the memory, track, and we say our egos. The soul itself is separate from its 10 external senses, which include 5 karma. The 5 karma senses and the 5 jnana senses, along with the 4 internal senses. It is through the senses that the soul experiences sorrow or happiness, which performing the various worldly tasks. When everything is happening at the level of the soul, so unless we are surrendering at the level of soul, no matter how much you discuss and talk about the intellect, mind, whatever, doesn't make any difference unless we are surrendering at the level of the soul. Within the 10 senses are the 10 different vital energies that we know. Those vital energies, basically in Hindi or Sanskrit, we call it as a prana, that run the body. If the imbalances of which would, if it would happen, then what will happen? It will cause the diseases and the elements in the body, right? And then we have also 3 kinds of nadis, right? That are also the main energy centers of the body. So these all are controlled by whom? The conscious energy of the soul. Nothing is beyond that. Either you call it a nadi is we know about, right? Ingla, Pingla, and Susmana, right? Monitor the functioning of all the physical organs of the body, your heart, lungs, whatever you name it. Susmana is the inner nadi which is activated through the practice of Bihangam Yoga at the stage level of 3rd. why we are doing this all. What will happen? The purpose of doing this all is to get back the conscious energy of the soul which is flowing outside. It means whatever organs, sensory organs, whatever we talked about, these are all running with the help of conscious energy of the soul. And that's the only reason why we are weak at the level of soul. And we do not have a level of surrender at what it should have been. These all activities, whatever you do, level 1, level 2, level 3 of the meditation, this all to get back the actual energy of the soul to its own. The soul is a conscious entity, we all know, right? While the nature and its functions, whatever we call it, are all inert. The soul functions through these inert forces of nature and uses the inert substances. And when it is free from the influence of the nature and all these substances, it's able to become stabilized and established in its true form, the pure and the conscious form, sentient being of the energy. That's the goal, right? That's why the level of surrender Swamiji is mentioning in many of the Doha, this is one of them. It should be done at the level of your soul. But that can only happen when these all sensory organs and whatever the part, the external organs and everything, which is running with the help of energy of the soul, is stopped. Stopped in the sense means we can give them only when we know okay it is required to be. Means those all are under our control now. Whatever stages of the mind, senses, and the prana, the soul experiences through the meditation are all within the realms of the nature only, which is Prakriti. However, it is only when the soul is seated in its true form in the state of self-realization, right, where it is completely free from the bondage of the nature. And that is the state is able to surrender itself to the Supreme God. To do this all, Swamiji mentioning in this Showa, Jivan Dori Aap se Dije Sadguru Saath. Surrender yourself first to the lotus feet of the Sadguru, so that with the technique, the tools that he is teaching you, with the help of those techniques and tools, we are able to control our mind, a full control of the mind, our senses, our organs, everything is controlled. The first level of surrender is this one. We know this, our mind, our intellect, everything is very, very powerful. And it's beyond the human capacity. Unless we are surrendering to the lotus feet of the Sadguru, it's beyond the human capacity to control it. That's the reason why we need a Sadguru, who knows the techniques. He teaches. When you are on that, you will be able to control that. And once you are controlling, then you are regaining back the original energy what you have. So does Kala Prakasha hai. The soul, the power of your soul is equivalent to 16 sun, the energy of the 16 sun. Where are these? Why can't we see it? Because we are not within that. We are in the outside with our conscious energy flowing outward in all the directions and where we can. And we don't know who we are, how powerful we are. And these all powers are required to go back. That's why it's required. Right? What we do in the third stage of the Vihangam Yoga, when the Kundalini awakens, the conscious light of the soul reaches the soul and the way for the self-realization is paved. Right? The mind with the prana dissolves completely. Right? And the unbridled infinite field of cosmic energy in the entire body, which is the place of void and wholeness, an ocean of all virtues, and the origin of all these creations. Rishi, the soul. The soul, without any attachment with nature, receives these conscious rays from the infinite source of Akshar Brahma. So that till the time soul is attached with these all natural things, it cannot receive this conscious energy, the infinite source from the Akshar Brahma. And that's what Swamiji says also in the survey, one of the Doha, like Kundalini ke talat mein se kamp bhu aaye. Dharani dhasi niche chali, meru kamp thahraye. Many of us experienced this already while doing the meditation. Why our entire body is moving and vibrating all the time when we are in meditation. Then Swamiji further says, Meru kamp ke hote hi sagar शब्द अपार दसो दिशा मोती झरे हीरा लाल संवार शक्ति महामंदिर लगे होवे ऊर्ध खिंचाओ झूले हिंडोला प्रेम का अमृत गंग नहाओ. Everything was very beautifully explained. It's not only one doha, there are many which supports this, why we need this kind of divine devotion and surrender towards the lotus feet of Sadguru. Because Sadguru is the only one who guides us. The relation, the attachment of the God and the soul is always. But still we are in pain. Why? That proves that God, the Supreme God itself, does not guide you. He only helps you to reach to the true Sadguru, who can guide you how to reach the God. The soul is the only entity who having completely realized itself imbibes all attributes of the Supreme Paramatma and merges within the ultimate. We all know. This is the actual state of the Samadhi, which is the real union of the soul with the Almighty and the doorway to everlasting peace and the happiness. And it is not possible for a yogi to reach this stage without the blessings of the Sadguru. It's not possible at all. When you go and when you start experiencing in your later stage of your meditation, and you will find that Sadguru is always there to help you and guide you. That's called the conscious form of the Sadguru. But without believing the human form of the Sadguru, you cannot realize the conscious form of the Sadguru also. It's very hard. That's why the surrender should start right in front of the human form of Sadguru and behave ourselves at the guidance and whatever the direction has been given and begin our journey in the yoga. Thank you, Jai Sadgurudeva. Sorry, I took much time, but sorry about that. Over to you, Neetuji.
Thank you very much, Niranjan ji. You gave us such profound wisdom from how you explained about the fact that Sadguru is the one who unites the soul with the Almighty. And the soul has such power, and it makes us think why we are not able to realize any power of the soul today. While it has so much power, it is because the conscious form or the power is all draining away on the outside in Prakriti. So we should, if we think of this fact that the soul has so much of power, and why is it that we are not able to realize it, then it makes us constantly think that there is something beyond what we are doing today. So the answer then lies in that we should totally surrender ourselves to Sadguru and the human form of Sadguru and tread on the path that he has laid out for us. And I think someone in the last satsang, they requested for a detailed session on the 12 niyams that Amit Talekarji also touched upon today. I think those are going to be covered in the following sessions. So Sadguru has made it very easy for us to progress on this path, following the 12 niyams, following the path of seva, sadhana, and satsang. And it will be through this constant, gradual journey that we will realize ourselves, what power there is, and then the surrender will come automatically. So that was my understanding. And if I have made any mistakes, please pardon me and correct me. And thank you again, Niranjanji, for explaining more on this Doha. At this time, I would like to again ask if there are any other questions or any thoughts on the topic that we have discussed today. Please come forward and share your thoughts.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. I think Niranjanji said something which is absolutely, divine, actually. Question I have is, how does the devotion to Sadguru in the embodied or disembodied or both forms lead to the level 3 Vihangam Yoga or Kundalini rising of that? I just because my understanding is that this is more physical and devotion is spiritual. So what is the connection there? If maybe Niranjanji or someone can, highlight a little bit on that. I think that will be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So if you take an example, let's say, if I ask my kid, devote yourself to your study, is that again spiritual? So devotion has many meanings. Doing the right thing under someone's guidance with the proper directions, right, is also called devotion. Like, I have devoted my time to do this activity to achieve some result. At the level of consciousness, it comes when you start self-realization. Before that, it's the only human form of the body of the Sadguru that you can see. You cannot realize in the conscious form because you are not there. So that's why I said earlier, like we have to start surrendering or devoting ourselves first the human form, which we know it. And when we start realizing, because third stage is the only stage where your Kundalini awakens. And once the Kundalini awakens, and then what happens? Your pran and mind both gets dissolved. Dissolved, when we say dissolve, actually, it's a two meanings. The pran first dissolves, and then the mind goes beyond the ninth door and it stays there, remain. But it does not mean when you come back, the mind will not come back. It will go to the ninth door only when it is in the pure form. The third stage, second stage is self. When we say like we have done our Triveni Asnan, at the second stage level it happens. And the third levels, because of your mind is outside and inside is purified, then the only third stage level, your Susmana gets opened up. Kundalini awakens. Your all eight chakras gets opens automatically with the conscious energy. This all happens only when your mind is purified. Once it is purified, then it takes you. It's the journey of the mind and soul both together unless mind dissolves. So it goes together, and then both get separated. Mind goes its own zone, and then the actual journey of the soul it starts. We can discuss later sometimes because this is very, you know, even though I can explain, but it's very hard for anyone to understand the reason because we are not at that level. So the devotion,
Niranjanji, you meant 10th door or 9th door? You meant 10th door, right?
yeah, 10th door, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's many things to understand, but
Yeah. 9th chakra and 10th door, basically. Yeah.
no, 8th chakra only. Chakra is 8.
Okay. Yeah.
In our body, it's the 8th chakra only.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, and beyond that, there's a 9th chakra beyond our
Yeah.
body. Okay,
Which is the 11th door. Yeah.
right. So it's there, and then the dwaras khidki. So it's getting smaller and smaller. So you're the conscious energy of the soul, which is surati, when it becomes more refined, which is called nirati again, right? That's how it happens. The same form, but it's changing, keeps changing and becoming refining, and it's become nirati, and then keeps traveling on the next level. So that is different thing of the discussion. Okay. So the devotion, I mean, the question, come back to your question, the devotion is at the both level. So we should be devoting ourselves at the present Sadguru with the form of human form. When you start experiencing, when you realize yourself, then the conscious form of the Sadguru appears. When it appears, but you know, okay, this is what the Sadguru, I already saw it. You can easily identify, yes, this is the Sadguru. I already saw it in the human form. And this is what is appearing now in the conscious form also. Otherwise, you will get confused. Who is he? I don't know. So this also happens for the some of the people. Yes, I believe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Niranjanji, for the question, and Niranjanji for sharing your thoughts and providing such input. And the way you have explained, I think that makes us more curious to understand more about how the prana dissolves and how the mind dissolves. So I hope we do get an opportunity to hear more from you in upcoming satsangs. Looking at the time, let us move to the next phase of today's satsang, which is Warrior of the Week. So we would like to inform everyone about an initiative Navy has started, which is called Warrior of the Week. We all know the best time to meditate is Brahma Muhurt, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Most of us fail to do so. To encourage this, Navy started this initiative where participants who have joined the WhatsApp group called Brahma Muhurt Warriors practice Brahma Muhurt meditation on their own between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. And then after they are done with the meditation, they report on the WhatsApp group that they have done it. There is no session to join. And we always encourage people to get motivated by the list of the names that we share every week, people who have been doing meditation every day of the week without fail. So if anyone is interested to join this group where they can be motivated, also motivate others, please do share your names and we will add you to the WhatsApp group. The warriors of this week are Surya Alamraju ji, Tejinder ji, Srirang ji, Bhagwati Patel ji, Maya ji, Amit Talekar ji, Yogesh Sirsagar ji, and Prachi Sirsagar ji. Warriors of the week are those disciples who have done meditation in Brahma Muhurt time without fail every day of the week. So congratulations to the warriors and thank you for being a constant source of motivation. Inductees of the week are those disciples who have done meditation for at least one day during the week or most days of the week. Inductees of this week are Lalmani ji, Vinita Kumari ji, Mayuri Krishnan ji, and Tanuja ji. Congratulations to the inductees and thank you for motivating us with your sincere efforts. Again, if any one of you is interested to join the WhatsApp group for Brahmamurt Warriors, please let us know and we can add you. We have now reached the last phase of today's satsang. The final prayer is Shanti Part. In the Shanti Part, we chant for peace for everyone who exists in this universe. May Sadguru Dev bless the entire cosmos with peace, love, and prosperity. I request Devji to recite the last few lines of Shanti Part for us. Over to you, Devji.
Shanti Path. Hey Prabhu Shanti Sharupa Ho. Shanti Shanti Maya Shanti. Shanti 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 Ho. Purna Shanti Maya Shanti. Hey Prabhu Shanti Pradana Kara. Duraho Sarva Shanti. Deva Sadafala Shanti Maya. Shanti Shanti Sukha Shanti. Jasa Gurudev Bhagwan Ki Jai.
Jai. Thanks a lot, Devji, for the wonderful recitation of Vandana, Aarti, and Shanti Part in such a soulful voice. Our today's session ends here. Today we learned that only our total surrender to both the conscious and human form of Sadguru will lead us to progress in the path of spirituality. I would like to thank Jessica ji, Amit ji, Dev ji, Niranjan ji, Niranjan Kumar ji for their seva in today's satsang. And I would like to thank all of you for joining the session today and encourage everyone to ponder over the topic we have discussed today. I pray to Sadguru to bless you with peace, prosperity, and progress. See you all next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. EST on the same Zoom meeting. Have a wonderful day and week ahead, and Jai Sadguru Dev.